But it was definitely a, interesting moment. Well, good morning, everybody. It's August 31st. We are here at Radford University in the fourth COMS226 class of the year. I believe there are 22 more, so we got to get moving. There's only 22 more. There's only, you know what? Christmas is right around the corner. You're going to see the decorations going up soon, right? All right, we got a good joke for you this morning. Go ahead.
So there are 3 weeks to run out. That's okay. That's had a canon from the 3 years.
All right. I'm so sorry to inflict that on you, but it was so much fun. Let me mention something else. We also have the lowercase of a printing operation. Now you probably know that uppercase and lowercase are typical in typography, but hang on one second. I'll pull this out and I'll show you a couple things. So let me I'll go ahead and take that off. And sharing, yes, and sharing. No, don't share. Come on. How do you not do something when it says, oh, you want to do that? Oh, that's fine. I don't know. Well, here's the thing. You've probably seen these in antique shops. These are type trays, and they hold a font of type, and one of them is down below and the other one is up above. So the lower one is the lowercase, it holds the lowercase letters, and this is a stick that is on these things, and the sticks are adjustable. So you might have a column width that is, let's say, 2.5 inches typically. And so you can adjust it and then lock it in and then start putting the type in right here. The type goes in with the nick up, and I'm going to pass one of these around so you can see the nick. Here you go. Maybe you can see that. It's got a little nick on it. Nicks up and face up. So, and then backwards, of course, because when you reverse it, when you print it, it's going to be reversed. So if you were going to write, I don't know, digital, you would, on this end, you would have, it'd be D, it'd start with D right here and go all the way across. Let's see, is that right? No, it's the other way. It'd start here with D and then go all the way across this way. So it's mirror imaged, but it's still upright. So I'm going to pass this around so you guys can see it. This is called a typesetting stick, a printer stick. We'll be talking more about typesetting in the class, but I'm a historian, and I just am really interested in media technology. I teach a class in media history, and I wrote a book in media history. Remember, I have to plug the book. Did you guys? Yeah, we've done that before, right? All right. And I'm actually working on a 3rd edition, and so I'm thinking about right now, here's the 2nd edition cover, right? Kind of busy, but very bright. And here's a concept for the 3rd edition cover, which actually, I look at this in contrast, I think, well, that's not really quite so good because it's dark. So maybe we could lighten it up or turn it blue or do something, maybe put some color into it. That's not even a communications technology, that's a bridge. But my dad took that picture, and I've always loved the composition of it. I mean, look at the way, even if we don't have the, even if we turn off the different, features like the type, and just look at the picture itself, right? Wow, what an amazing dramatic shot. How did he take that? He's way up in the air. He's on the other side of the bridge. So what they're doing is they're running all the cable lines from the foundations on either side of the river up across the supports, and then down again, and then they're running the cable line back again. Thank you. So good composition. And what makes a good composition? Well, usually something that's divided in threes, it follows the rule of thirds, it's got dramatic motion, it's got, angles. This hits all the sweet spots for a good composition. So I like it. I'm not sure it's really best for the book, but the thing to demonstrate to you guys today is I'm using GIMP right now to and turning on and off layers in this GIMP application so that I can try out different things. Here's like up at the top where it says third edition of the book, I can sort of turn that off and see what it looks like without it. Actually, it doesn't look too bad, so I might keep that. And you can generate from what's called a natural, a native format, like PSD for Photoshop or XCF for GIMP. You can save a file in the basic format that can only be opened with the application. And you can have all of your layers and all of your other stuff, and then export different kinds of files. So this is the strategy that you would use. And you could export one that maybe has third edition on the other side or something like that, so that you would export into a single layer file, maybe a PNG or a JPEG, not a multi-layer file like this is. So that's the way that you get things done in the graphics business. You don't have to learn how to set type anymore. That's the good news. The bad news is that the GIMP only goes so far. And when I'm really working on this, I actually prefer to use Photoshop. So a lot of people do use Photoshop for complicated situations like this. But GIMP mostly works just as well. So that's the basics that I wanted to tell you about. So what I want to do today is introduce you to Photoshop and GIMP, and really to the process of how do you work with photo editing and digital editors. But I wanted to also kind of go back to some of the problems I'm seeing with your WordPress.com sites. So that's where I'm headed right now. And let's go ahead and screen share that part. Okay. So everybody can see this now, right? And so what I want to do is go through and just show you a couple of good examples, and then maybe a couple that there are problems, and suggest what to do about it. So let's see. The one I actually thought, well, one of them that is pretty good is Mr. Zawadzki's. And one of the things you'll notice about this is that the assignment, which was to upload something like maybe Migrant Mother, it could have been other things too, something that is in the public domain, and onto a post so that it shows right up on your front page. He does that really well. I mean, it's just, you go to that site and it's one click. Who else did that? A lot of people are kind of two clicks. Let's see, Jessica Groft, I think, was one. Yeah, so Jessica is kind of one click. In other words, the photo shows up right there on the front page. Now, this isn't the be all and end all by any means, but what I'm talking about is, for example, here's Owen's. It's pretty good, but you have to click twice to get to the picture, to Migrant Mother. And I don't know why that is, but it is, the picture itself is not loading up on the front page like it should. So why would that be? I don't know. Sometimes, I mean, we did have a problem with Ariana. Hang on one second. I was online with Ariana. Just okay. Tyson, message from Tyson. It's okay. Hey, in fact, this is a good point, Tyson. Let me return to that in just a second. But I'm going to go back to, here we are, Ariana. So Ariana, we were having really hard time with her theme, and she just decided to use Coraline. And you might notice that Coraline looks an awful lot like the theme I've been using, and that's because it is. It's the same theme. You know, so when you look at this page right here, let's see, hang on. There we go. When you look at this page right here, you can see it's pretty much the same structure as this page right there. Although it's, you know, different content, but just look at the structure, right? So Coraline does what I want to do here. So we did a good job with that, but it was really kind of a pain to reach this. And a lot of your themes are not going to be quite as easy to use. And you might try Coraline just to see what I'm talking about when we deal with this. So Coraline has got lots and lots of features, whereas a lot of other themes are very skinny and they don't have those kind of features that you might want. So it's Coraline, Coraline. And I think it doesn't even say what the name of the theme is on it, and it should, but that's what it is right there. Now, I got a message from Tyson saying that his roommate has COVID. He's feeling symptoms, and he's gonna get a test for it. So he didn't come to class, but he's online. That is perfect. I like that. That is let's use that approach. If you're feeling sick, I'm gonna make sure that this class is recorded and online every single time we have it, so that if you're in section 1, you don't have to come to class. If you're feeling sick, you can pick it up on the recorded side. And if you're in section 3, you're supposed to be getting the asynchronous delivery anyway. But let me add that if you'd like to come to class and you're feeling well, that's fine, and you're welcome to do that. So the class is 9:30 in Hemphill Hall and room 1005. So that little bit of housekeeping there, but back to structure here. So you may be having trouble with your theme, and if you are, don't hesitate to change it around. Try Coraline, try some others. Here's what I don't like to see so much, but I know you guys can get over this. Here's Sam here. Oh, good. So Sam had the big blue screen, but he doesn't anymore. Here's another one, Kristen Davis. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So if you get this, coming soon, right? The big blue screen, that means that you haven't published your site, and it's easy to miss this part because you can still work with your site interactively and not see what other people are seeing. So what do you want to do to publish your site? Well, once you've got your site established, you want to make sure that you confirm your email to WordPress.com, and then find the big blue publish button in the upper right-hand corner that's in one of these iterations, okay? So it's not hard to do, but it's easy to miss. So that's possibly the problem there. Now, when I graded these, I started to just put in a number 1 to show that I had seen it. And I thought, oh, that's just going to be confusing. I'll just not grade them until they're actually up and live, no matter, how they're looking. So the very first score in the class is you've got a working website. And that would be the case with Sam and with Ariana and with Owen, and others, Jessica and others, and Sawadsky is, I don't have his first name right there, but so these are all 50 points because you got the basic website working. Now you've got the first blog post, that's another 50 points. Okay, so Mr. Zawadsky here, is it Mr. Gabrielle? Yeah, Zawadsky would at this point have 100 points in the class. It's a hard barrier to get over, to have these, to get these things going. Whereas in Owen, the same way, we'll work out the menus later. Same with Ariana. Here, Sam would still be at 50 points. Okay. So getting that first blog post up is the next threshold. Okay. And Kristen, I don't have a grade for her yet, but I know she's on the right track. So that's kind of how this is going to work. Now, if you get a grade that is maybe half of the points you could have gotten, you can always improve your, just take advice or whatever, and fix the problem, and I'll change your grade. And if I don't change your grade, email me and remind me that I promised to do this, okay? And we'll do that all the way up to the end of the class. But here's the catch. I don't want to have to be going back to assignment 1. I want this to roll forward. So once you're a month behind, that old bad grade is going to stay that old bad grade, right? So you got a grace period of a due date for at least a week. And then if you're trying to improve your grade, you can go back for about a month. Okay, that's about as fair as I can make it. And that's one of the things about this class is that, you can kind of shift your priorities. Some people do a lot of work early on, get done, and then save that time for other classes. Other people, athletes especially, have major commitments in the warm, time at the end of summer, and then sort of dig in once it starts to get rainy and miserable in the fall. Okay, so you judge your own time. That's how this class kind of works. But I will work with you. And again, if you are sick or if your roommate is sick or something, it's fine to stay home and do this. Now, when we and to watch this over Zoom, when we look at this website here, obviously, we've got number 1, great, build a portfolio. Number 2, start making pages and posts. And number 3, customize your site, especially customize the menus so that it makes sense. And so those are the first 3 things we're looking at. These next 2 things, create a header and work with widgets and plugins and stuff like that, stuff you don't know about yet. We'll do that as we go along. But what we want to do is have a good platform to start being able to post these things in section 2, which are the images and the exercises that we're going to work on in Photoshop and in GIMP. Okay, so read through these from A, B, C, and D, and then start in on that. And there's a little peripheral thing, I do a lot of history, so I think you should know about design approaches as well. Beatrice Ward, who is this person right here, she called herself a typographer. She would be a website designer today. You can click through and look at her webpage. She's the one who wrote 2 really outstanding things. And one of them, and I've got links to her ideas about design. One of them is called the Crystal Goblet. And the idea is why wouldn't you make a web page that was really garish and full of snidgely and lots of other stuff? Her idea is if you love wine, you're not going to use a big golden chalice. You're going to use something that's crystal that you can see through so that it's the wine that you're focused on. Even maybe the glass is elegant crystal or not, but the point is the wine, not the glass. So or goblet, as she calls it, right? So it's the same way with design. Focus on making sure that your structure doesn't get in the way of your content, if you want to put it in a modern terms. But she's very elegant, and it's really worthwhile. The other thing is something called This is a Printing Office, and I need to print this out and hang it in the on the wall here. This is a printing office, crossroads of civilization, refuge of all the arts against the ravages of time, armory of the fearless truth against whispering rumor, incessant trumpet of trade. And, she winds it up by saying, you stand on sacred ground. This is a printing office. And it's actually engraved at the entrance to the government printing office in Washington, D.C. And if you've ever been there, I actually took a tour before the age of offset printing and computer typesetting. And there was just row after row after row of giant machinery that was, used to print out to set type for Congress and for government printing. It's a gigantic place. It was a really interesting and marvelous factory of ideas for Congress. So I wanted to let you know that we are interested in not just the mechanics of reproduction of images, but also the aesthetics. You know, not just how to get something through the internet, but why we're trying to get something through the internet. So we'll be keeping that in mind as we go along. And I recommend reading Beatrice Ward. There's a couple of other people that you're going to meet along the way. Edward Tufte, who's a very famous designer. Really nobody outside of design knows about him, and a few others. But Beatrice Ward, to me, exemplifies two of the main ideas about who we are and what we're doing in media. You know, one is to be a recorder of all the great ideas. And the other is to not let our designs get in the way of the content of all those great ideas. And I'm just sort of PowerPointing what she says very eloquently. And so I just want to mention that. Let's talk about imaging. And I want to just run through this real quick. Pixels are the basic element of a picture. So a pixel is a picture element. And when you edit a photo and zoom in on a digital image, you get down to individual pixel levels, either quickly in a small photo or more slowly in a photo with a lot of pixel depth. Okay, so they're the basic reference point for technical terms. Screen resolution is another part of this. If you're looking at a computer screen, you're going to be looking at 72 pixels per inch. Why 72? Anybody know? Because there are 72 points per inch in the old typographic system that was developed in the 1730s. You ever see those internet memes about why do we have roads that are, 4 or 5 feet wide or something, why the wagon ruts are 4 or 5 feet, right? It's because of Roman chariots, railroads, and that became the railroad gauge and all of that goes back to Roman chariots. Actually, that sort of influence from the past of these basic designs is not so difficult to comprehend. We have the same sort of thing going on with typography. File size is really important, and the two major things that we're going to be dealing with are, files measured in kilobytes, so thousands of bytes. Everybody knows what a byte is, right? B-Y-T-E. It's like 8 bits of information. So a bit can be on, off, on, off. So one or zero, that's a bit. A byte is 8 of these together, and there's a reason why. There's a mathematical reason why 8, increments of 8 work pretty well together. So we want, for web publication, we want kilobytes, and for printing, we want megabytes. So 1,000 kilobytes is 1 megabyte. A good picture for a, let's say, a cover of a magazine might be 20 or 30 megabytes to be printed. But that same picture on a website probably should only be maybe 800 megabytes. So it would be quite a bit, 800 kilobytes. It'd be quite a bit smaller. Everybody remembers how maybe your parents or your older brothers would play Super Mario 8 bits, right? You guys have seen 8-bit Super Mario game, right? So that is 8 bits. It's processing 8 bits of color, and that's why it's not very complicated, is because it's only 8 bits of color, so you only get 256 possible colors. So it's 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. It's like 8 to the exponent is 8. And so that's how you arrive at 8 bits. Here's a 16-bit. This was a big deal many years ago, good old Zelda. And you can see there's more colors, there's more action, there are more possibilities, right? So here's 1 bit. This is 1 or 0 processing. Here's 8-bit processing. Here's 16-bit processing. Well, of course, now we've got 32-bit processing. So 32-bit processors in computers, or if you double them up, that's the 64, Nintendo 64, right? And you can actually quadruple them up and have 128 bits of processing at a time. But that's just parallel processing. The basic thing is 32-bit processors, and that's what we're using in these computers. Now, the reason we have RGB, for example, well, these 32 bits are really, it's 8 times 4. So there's 4 channels of 8 bits each. And you're going to see this as we go along. But basically, you can have 4 different channels. So RGB plus a 4th channel that's called an alpha channel. It's for control. Or CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, black. So those are the 2 big publishing systems. RGB is projected media, red, green, blue. And so that's, you can imagine a rainbow that has red, green, blue in it. CMYK is if you take that color wheel, say, and turn it a quarter turn, you've got cyan, magenta, yellow, and the K is for black, which gives depth in printing. You don't have to do that with projected media because the K is implied from the blackness of where you're not projecting. Does that make any sense? I don't know if anybody gets that or not. But anyway, your screen is black until you project media in it. So projected media only needs 3 channels, printed media needs 4 to get pretty much the same effect. So how does that relate to pixel depth? Well, you can open a very large file in Photoshop or GIMP and then sort of drill down to where you have a pixel. If it's a 10 megabyte file, it'll take maybe 4 or 5 different, clicks on the old zoom. If it's maybe a 200 kilobyte file, it might only take 1 or 2 clicks to get to that pixel level where you see all the pixels. We'll show you this in a minute here, but here's a good idea of the difference. This is my dog, and Cooper. He's quite a bit bigger now, but and that's a not very high res JPEG. But here is a GIF that only has, I think it is, how many colors? I think it's 16 colors. So you can see when you don't have that many colors, you get that posterizing effect. See how it's got, just, you can see the highlights, but there's no variation. Here, take another look at the original. And there's lots and lots of color variation here. Over here on the 16 color GIF, or this would be, I think it's in effect 16 bits. This is what it looks like. So just to give you an idea, you can actually achieve this. Here's a little bit of an explanation on a table. You can look at this and say, well, 1 bit per pixel gives you 2 possible colors. It's black or white. It's called a bitmap. If you have 2 bits per pixel, there's 4 possible colors. That's not really a standard. The standard is really 8 bits per pixel. That's 256 possible colors. And that relates to this right here, 2 times 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 2. Okay. And that comes out to 256 colors. And then usually that it would be a GIF. You can actually take colors away in JPEG or grayscale as well. But it's called an indexed color system. And it's called an indexed mode. If you have a 16-bit, this would be a Super NES system. That's 2 channels of 8 bits. So it's 256 times 256. So that's 65,000 possible colors. But they rapidly skipped over that phase and went straight to 24 or 32-bit processing, where your actual little computer chip is handling 16.8 million possible colors. And that's plenty. That's all you need for almost all applications, whether it's video or pictures or whatever. There are other things that become quality indicators after that. But those could be RGB, or it could be, for projected media, or with 32-bit processing, you could have CMYK type colors for printed media. Now, that's called a mode, and I'm going to show you that in Photoshop in a minute. So indexed, RGB, and CMYK are called modes. So this is GIMP, and I'm going to actually open up Photoshop to make this a little bit easier on me. So in Photoshop, I'm going to open this, probably this same thing, maybe something else. Yeah. Let's see. Let's do something else. There's some interesting shots here if I can find the one I'm looking for. Nope. Nope. Oh yeah, here we go. We were talking about typesetting, so let's look at this. Yeah, here we go. So this is Photoshop, and this is let me drag this out onto the stage. And also let me change the screen setting so that we've got, yeah, there we go. So in this very room, only about 2 months ago, we had, governor school, high school students who came here, and we were setting type with them using, these type trays and all of that. And what I want to show you here is that this is under this image mode, we could turn this into an indexed color, an RGB color, or a CMYK color. There are some other things that are technical, lab and multi-channel, but these are multi-channel anyway. So the mode is different from the format, but it affects the format. You don't have to remember all this stuff. If you get lost, if you take the quiz and something comes up you don't quite understand, you can go right back to those notes on the website. But I just wanted to show you this is how this works. So let's say we wanted to turn this into a grayscale. We would have to discard all of the color. So this is how this would look as a black and white photo. And that's how you would quickly make it a black and white photo. Is it the best way to do it? No. In Photoshop, there's another way that lets you test out various versions of a color photo going to black and white. Okay, so that's, but I'm going to undo that. Now, here's another really wonderful part of Photoshop. There's a thing called the history palette. And this history palette, if I can find the darn thing, I have a cramped screen here, so the history palette lets me go back and undo that. That's the point. Come on, history palette. Where are you? Okay, here it is, right? Can you guys see the history palette? In class, we can see it. I don't know if you can see it on Zoom, but it just lets me go back and you can see the color comes right back. The other thing you can do is just go to undo, which is a command that comes. This is a very handy thing to be able to, so undo, right? And it's Command Z. Probably you already know about the undo command, but a lot of your typical stuff, your familiar stuff does show up in Photoshop and GIMP. Cut and paste, undo, things like that that are really familiar from text processing or other kinds of things. So you won't feel completely at sea when you're using Photoshop or GIMP. The other thing is that you want to reduce the size, or at least check the size of your image. And you can do that by going to image and then image size, of course. So again, you may not be able to see this, but what I'm looking at here, and I wonder if I can share the actual, no, I can't share the pop-up, unfortunately. But I'll just go ahead and explain to you. Here in class, what we can see is that this is a 34.9 megabyte file. Let's see, that's Sarah here. And we'll just look at Sarah's face there for a second. This is a 34.9 megabyte file. See where it says 34.9 up here at the top? And why is it so much? Well, one thing, the resolution is 72. Now that's where it should be. That's the right resolution for the web. But the height and width in inches are gigantic. It's 42 inches wide by 56. That's way, way too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this down to a width of, let's say, 8. No, not even 8, 6. Okay, and then I can make sure that if I take it down to 6, I will still see the same proportions. I don't have to guess about the proportions, right? So now it's 6 by 8, and look at it was 35 megabytes. Now it's 729K. So big difference. And that's what you want to be able to do, to take your pictures that might be huge and turn them into something that works on the web. But the strategy, again, is you don't overwrite the old picture. You save the old picture in the native Photoshop or RAW or, whatever your camera took, you save that, and then you export out a lower res photo so that you can work with that. Now, if it's somebody else's public domain photo, you can just download from the Library of Congress, let's say a 200K photo as opposed to a 30 megabyte photo. Does that make sense? Everybody getting this? It's a central concept here. We have to use smaller files. This is how we make them smaller. We go to image, adjust, and adjust the image. You can do it by changing the resolution as well. And then finally, one of the things that we want to do with either GIMP or Photoshop is that we want to save in a new format. So we could export, or we could just do a save as kind of operation. And here we can do a quick export to PNG. So there's 3 big file formats that you want for the web. One is a PNG, that's a portable network graphic. Other one is JPEG. You've heard of JPEGs, I'm sure. And then, of course, there's the old familiar GIFs, which are really built for that 8-bit processing. So, Mario is really mostly a GIF. He's a moving GIF. Everything else is either a JPEG or a PNG. What are these things really? PNG stands for Portable Network Graphic. It is an improvement on JPEG. JPEG comes out of the an international organization. People say, what good is the United Nations? Well, here's something that works pretty well. The International Technical Standards Groups, called the Joint Photographic Experts Group, came up with JPEG compression back in the 1980s and made it universal. Anybody can use it. It's not, it's not patented. The patents are actually held by this organization. Some of the key patents were bought up by the United Nations ITU to facilitate international communication, right? So that there was a standard that everybody could use. The same thing for MPEGs. Motion Picture Experts Group developed compression technologies and different layers so that when you see MP4, you're seeing a format that was put together by this international group. Point being, compression is at the key of these kinds of formats. So let me go ahead and save this. I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller. I'm gonna go to image size. So this is Photoshop now. Image size, and I'm gonna make this let's say a 12-inch wide. Come on, 12-inch wide. And this is about a 2 megabyte, right? And now I'm going to do a save as so that it's a JPEG format. And when I do that, I'm going to change this. So I'm going to, it was originally called typography printing, and I'm going to type in SM. This is my little code for it. This is a small one, okay? And now I'm going to open this up, and you will see what these are called dialog boxes. You will see a dialog box that tells you that if you apply a lot of compression, which means you're going to get a lower quality image, this could be as small as 126K, but it could be as large as, with JPEG compression, 681. Okay, so that's one of the things you want to do with JPEG is to be able to use your compression to vary the quality. Look what happens when it's really low compression. This would be like a 71K photo. And let's go ahead and zoom in on it and just see how bad it looks. Okay. It's actually not that bad. Still a 71K photo. One of the things about that kind of photo is that you can see there's a lot of artifacts and, like see how her skin looks really mottled, and by the way, we're zooming into the pixel level right now. So the artifacts, these are the computer doesn't know quite how to interpret complex things. I'm sure if you use artificial intelligence, or we will be using AI to do this kind of thing, then we can get much lower res photos. Nobody really cares about that so much because the work is all on the other end. Making sure that we have a lot of throughput put in the higher bandwidth areas, right? So let's not worry about this. Let's worry about getting 20 megabyte photos through the internet, not how do we make something 70K and make it look good. Why bother? It's pretty awful. See how her forehead just looks, really kind of not that great. So, and that's what happens when you over apply JPEG compression. So we've gone through just a couple of basic things. You know why we want to use the compression formats is to make things go through the web smoother. You know that we can't use anything higher than about 1 megabyte unless you're on FiOS or something. So we're getting to the point where it's not as much of a concern, but remember that our concern is going to have to be accessibility as well. So there's a lot of folks who are not going to have FiOS, who are not going to have really high bandwidth access. So it's still something that we need to bear in mind and use those smaller size, high quality photos. The best quality we can get, but the smallest size we can get them to go through the internet. So that's part of the strategy. So when you take a nice 12 megabyte photo, save that, and then edit it, and we'll talk about that next time, how to edit and what to do. But save it in a lower size, and then in the appropriate format, either JPEG or PNG. So, questions about all that? Make sense? All right. Do we not want to look at her forehead anymore? Let's do the same thing in GIMP. Okay. So here we are in GIMP, and I'm going to change over to GIMP here. And so let's say I want to export out a version of this cover. So we'll go to File, Export As. And the thing about GIMP that's a little bit different is that you actually have to put in the suffix. So just like Photoshop will generate a JPG, here it's about to generate an XCF or a PSD. Oh, I think I just blew it there. Let's try this again. So let's export. And what I want to do is export it not as an XCF, but as a JPEG. Now that means it's going to collapse my layers, and that's okay. I want that. And it certainly says right away, save the data and look out for the color profile, and quality is going to be what? So again, this is JPEG compression, the JPEG quality parameters. And we'll go ahead and hit the export button. Now, we haven't changed the basic picture here. I'm just exporting out a version of this that I can send to somebody via email that's going to be low res. So let's see, I think I put that on the desktop. Go, gadget, desktop, and I don't know. I don't think I did. I don't think it went there. Could it have gone to pictures? What does it go to? I don't care. I could do it again. I wanted to get it out on the desktop. But you guys get the point. It can be exported out. And then I was going to open it back up and show you what the size was. Because a lot of times you need to get that size. Now, desktop. And Orinoco JPG. Now I know where it's going at least. So that's supposed to work. And there should be, aha, here's the save image. Now, I don't know if you guys can see this. The audience at home probably can't see this. And there is, I think, another dialog box that's in the way because I'm trying to use this on a really cramped screen. So I am having a little bit of trouble doing this. There, oh, why not? Why not? Why not? All right. But that's basically how you would do it. I think I would have to do, there's some more operations in GIMP. For example, I think I would have to collapse all of the, and I can do that if I move this over here. GIMP is a little fussier than Photoshop in some ways. So if you're dealing with all of this stuff, for example, you're looking for the, you know what? I'm not going to fool with layers today. Let's just take it for granted that, you know, you can export a lower res photo. I meant to bring my mouse today and it's hard to do this on the trackpad. So, but you guys get the point. You have a multi-layer Photoshop or GIMP document that you would then export versions of to maybe send to a friend or an editor. Hey, how do you like this? How do you like this? Or to post on the web and you save your big version. All right, that's the strategy. Questions about that? Everybody happy? Are you working on your websites now? So what I'm going to do is I am going to stop the recording, but leave the Zoom open so that people can ask questions about their site. If you have an issue with your site or about all of this, just, you know, you can let me know. Okay. So here's the, I'm going to stop the recording. Here we go. And